What do a speaking coach, a strategy consultant, and a facilitator have in common? Sounds like the start of a bad joke, right? But honestly, it's all about finding out what people really do in their jobs. The stories, the struggles, the coffee breaks. The real stuff you won't find in a job title.
Welcome to a space where we sit down with people from all kinds of careers, have a laugh, and dive into what makes their work meaningful. Whether you're looking to learn something new or just here for a good story, let us be your guide. I'm Jeff.
And I'm Charlie.
And let's get
Casually Pro!
Woo! Today, we are sitting with Rina Yahya, aka Rina the facilitator. Rina, we met in Copenhagen a few years ago. You were the president of the Speak to Lead Toastmasters Club. You're a facilitator who organized 250 meetings and conferences, mostly corporate. You have a special approach that enables people to connect together. I'm very happy to be here with you today and a little bit intimidated. Can you please start by telling us who you are, what you do, and how you got here?
Hi guys, I'm Rina the facilitator. I am a facilitator. See, look at me facilitating myself. I'm a facilitator for meetings, events, conferences, making them unforgettable. So what do? I engage your crowd, do audience management. Not only that, so you can actually have better decisions, better crowds, people happy, people who are happy also buy. My job is to massage the crowd. And it's also in different industries, so it can be in pharma, biotech, sustainability, AI, leadership, talent. The background really doesn't matter because when you have an idea, basically you don't want it boring, and we are all tired of boring events. So it actually includes complete end-to-end moderation, facilitation, including event strategies from the beginning to the end. That's what I do.
I love that. The most interesting people tend to shift things away from the conventional in all aspects of their life. I personally am enamored with people that start conversations by saying, I don't like boring X. I don't like boring Y. Because I'm in for a treat. And this particularly is really interesting because facilitation is one of my favorite things in the world. I am a huge communications geek, right? And one of the most incredible things that most people don't think about is that facilitation is the ultimate challenge for communication because there's inbound communication, understanding whatever is being listened to, outbound, which is making sure that your message gets across. But facilitation is doing both at the same time from an external point of view and making sure everyone can say and be understood. It's an incredible skill that takes years and years and years to master. Even if you're naturally good at it, it might not be applicable to every setting. So I am very, very excited to get talking about this. But to start, I am a sucker for stories. I want to know what led you into loving and wanting to make facilitation your career, your path towards professional success.
You guys want the honest answer, don't you?
Oh, 100%.
Let me tell you, it never was. It never was. And that's not how most of the story starts. The intention wasn't to be a facilitator. The problems were people constantly having problems. And then they would come to me and say, Rina, you handle that. Rina, you seem good with people. Rina, you go deal with the difficult client. And I didn't want to do that. But you smile the whole time, so you should do it. That's actually how I ended up in facilitation, because most of the time, the problems that people don't want to deal with, which is a lot of communicating back and forth, you're having to become like a social glue all the time. And it wasn't meant to be a facilitator. Actually, in fact, I was supposed to be a sustainable cities master of engineer in science, right? And actually, Jeffrey's earlier question, which I forgot to answer, was how did you get here? I'm in Copenhagen, Denmark for the last 12 years. It was an accident. I wasn't supposed to come to Denmark. I was supposed to go to Spain to find my Spanish husband and speak Spanish. But at UC Berkeley in the last year of bachelor's, they only had French available, but it got booked. And then a Danish teacher saw me and basically said, you should learn Danish. And I thought it was a pastry. So I told her, is that food? Is it like a European language? She said, yeah, just go, just come. There was not that many students, but I learned that Dane wasn't a dog, Danish wasn't a pastry, and Denmark was not the capital of Sweden. And that I wasn't a sustainable cities engineer. I definitely wasn't. And I noticed that every single time I followed a problem, I ended up more and more becoming a facilitator, dealing with people who have those problems.
Wow, that's amazing. Finally, a story that is not the usual. Um, I made a 10 years plan to do this because I knew that's where I wanted to go. But it seems like it was really a journey of exploration.
It definitely was. I kid you not. If I could tell you that it was meant to be, and that there was a rubric and that there was a pathway, I'd tell you the reason why I'm a good facilitator was because I got into so many situations where the conflict was high, where the stress was high, where nobody wanted to do it. Somebody wanted someone to do something, and communication was communicated, but not communicated. You can communicate at something, but most of the time it's not really heard, it's not really felt, it's not really listened. And right now, with our attention span being almost 5 seconds, like, look over there. We're so easily distracted all the time. So if you have the power to manage a crowd, if you have a power to manage the room, if you have the power to step in and, I don't know how loud that is going to be, but it's a power in itself. So I was actually advised, make sure you use it for good. I'm still busy trying to make it work for good. I don't have time to use it for evil. Not yet.
Well, I think that's such a wonderful kind of example of how you kind of facilitated your own entrance into facilitation, right? I think one of the biggest misnomers that people have when it comes to any kind of corporate environment is that things run perfectly, like clockwise, all the time, even in super, you know, big, high budget environments. Things are supposed to work perfectly, and the reality is, it's a system built by people, and the day that that system is going to be perfect is the day that people are perfect, which is never. And so, I really like this idea that you had an idea, you had a plan kind of fell apart. You iterated, you kind of found a person to take you on in terms of seeing your ability and your skills and then kind of pivoting into something else. That's a very common kind of, uh, I almost want to call it a trope on this show, where we talk about directions that we were all planning on going, and then we just ended up falling into something that we loved and or were good at and or gave us a sense of success. Um, so I guess moving towards the actual work itself, so facilitation. I kind of want to know, what does that mean for you in a day-to-day capacity? How are you building these bridges of communication for other people so that maybe they have the ability to work interpersonally with people that they find difficult, or maybe even you find difficult, or even a difficult situation, high pressure, high value. But the day-to-day steps that Rena goes through.
So let me tell you, first step, anxiety. Second step, overcome anxiety. And usually always through bravery, right? It's that same pill you swallow every single day. So that's kind of the mentality, is that, am I the person built for this? Yes, you are. You do it time and time again. How it goes is that normally I think someone would approach me. They would tell me, hey, I saw you on XYZ stage. I want you to do that for us. But what we want is a little bit different. And they want it custom tailor made, usually with either a corporate strategy or usually involving marketing, different pieces, the venue. And here's the thing. Most of the time they go for one thing. They said they want me either as a speaker, they want me as a facilitator, or they want me to just advise them on the event. In reality, what happens is that in the entire value chain, from a start of an idea of a meeting, event, or conference, I should be added as early as possible. But a facilitator is added almost too late when the fires are already burning. So I am telling you, I have firefighting leadership. 2% of the population reacts well to crisis. And with my background, coming from California, West Oakland, and also San Francisco, crisis was the norm. So I didn't realize that being in that kind of crisis situation made me adaptable. It doesn't mean that it's a strength, actually. In essence, you are more prone to pick up danger and moments of, a crisis here is about to happen. With enough times, you actually get better at picking it up. What we think is strength is just a common reoccurrence, to the point where you become very, very noticing that a situation is happening again and again, an indicator. And I think what a facilitator does, which is different from a moderator, which is different from a speaker is an expert and comes in. A moderator will moderate the conversation regarding one specific aspect. A facilitator plans for the event, warming up the entire thing, kind of like going through the program, but adjusting it in real time. So even though you plan, and no matter how good you plan, 50% of it will be unknown every single time. So I liked what you said, Charles, that it's about iterations. So what's great is that I feel like I'm a social corporate doctor. You go into a situation, you see kind of what they want, what type of body that they want, what type of experience that they want, and you try to deliver it by making their body move in a certain way to gain that feeling, that experience. And it's almost like every single time I deal with a crowd, it seems almost nerve-wracking. It seems almost like you're excited, almost to the point of, we got this. But it feels like if the crowd is heavy, if the planning hasn't been done well, then it's up to the facilitator to lift the entire room. So imagine a barbell of a dead crowd across my chest weighing 300 kilos. If I've been bench pressing this constantly, this is going to feel like nothing. But you can get really rusty if you're not constantly working with the crowd. But if you're strong enough, and if you've done it enough, and if you've done it in different ways, a strong corporate facilitator can take any agenda that you have, work with any team that you currently have in the moment, and in a very short span of time, assess a clear plan of execution and take quick decisions on the way. What may seem planned is actually not natural. It's quick decision making in very, very short time. And you know a great facilitator when they can add humor at any point.
Wow, that's a very, very complete answer. Where can I start?
Do you want me to facilitate that question? I just want to be clear. I told people, they're like, how can I do what you do? I was like, do you want to suffer the same way as me? Do you
You
want
know,
to hurt the sandwich? Do you want the pain that comes with it?
the way I see it, Rina. So to put things with my perspective, I used to be extremely shy years ago. So I was more like the type of person in the event who would maybe talk with the neighbors or maybe with no one and have a relatively average to bad experience. Then I became extremely sociable, and nowadays I can manage my own energy and I'm high as a kite and I talk to everyone. But I know that there is a step when I arrive in a new place. I have to warm up. I need to talk to a few people in order to put the energy high, and then it stays usually high for as long as the event is going. But there needs to be a ramp up. There needs to be a way to get this energy. Some people can do it for themselves, but most people can't. And the way I see the role that you're doing, the role of a facilitator, is to make sure that everyone gets into this high energy, wanting to socialize, feeling good, even if they're not very skilled socially or if they're not very comfortable in those kinds of events. Is do I see it in the right way? Is that correct?
I mean, you are sitting, but does that point sit well with me? Absolutely. The crowd, it's not like kind of changing the crowd. It's more like reflecting the crowd. I would like you to think of me like a gigantic mirror, but on stage. And there's all these mirrors in front of me with their energy. The best part about being that facilitator is that if you have the right power, you can actually reflect all the energy back to them and direct people's attention to specific spaces. The thing is also, it's not kind of changing people, it's more like inviting them. And what I realized was that you can't make a crowd jump 10 feet if you haven't made them trust you to jump 1 feet together. So I think a trick of the trade for a facilitator is you got to make people trust you, and trust you not in perfection, but trust so that when any mistake happens, when an opportunity happens, they're going to be received really well. And invite that participation, invite that energy to come, positively reinforce behavior and interaction that adds to the room. That room lifts up and everyone can decide to join it or not. And by the way, nobody likes to be left out, me included. I want to be part of the fun. So what you do is you kind of raise the energy level. You invite them to invite, instead of heavy energy, annoyed, disgruntled, I haven't had enough coffee. You get, oh, this doesn't seem that bad, or oh, that was actually a nice joke, or oh, these people seem interesting. Oh, I like this. And then, you know what? I'm actually part of this. I mean, that's not a full step, but it's kind of getting people realizing that they themselves can actually change their energy. And a facilitator can't lie on stage with their energy. They can't lie. You can feel like you're 20%, but you will give 100 of that completely. And people can tell whether you're, whatever emotion, whatever's going through your mind, Looney Tunes through the mind, they can pick it up. That is why being a facilitator is one of the most naked jobs out there. They can pick up everything that you feel. And if you're a gigantic mirror, that feeling will be projected onto them too. That's why with great power comes great responsibility and a powerful cup of tea.
First of all, love the reference. Second of all, I really like this concept, and I want to dig a little deeper because there is a really big misconception when it comes to speakers or anyone who's working interpersonally with other people, right? That the idea is you have to be on all the time when you're with them. And that is, I mean, just for any layman, that sounds exhausting. And for, people who work in the interpersonal space, we know it is exhausting and it's really impossible. But I think the idea isn't that you're on 100%. It's that, like you said, sometimes you're coming in at 20, but you give the full 100, and but more importantly than any of that is that you're transparent about it, right? I have this thought of me going into one of my first ever speaking engagements, and I forget what happened. I definitely like messed up my car in some way on the drive there. And then I got a stain on my suit, and there was all sorts of problems. And I go there, I look like someone completely disheveled and out of their element, and I turn to the crowd and I say, "Guys, I had literally the worst morning you could possibly imagine, um, and I want to make this awesome. So can we do that together?" And then from that point onward, it wasn't so much that I had 100% of me available there, but it was like I had the ability and the comfort of the crowd that they were supporting me in my endeavor to try to make that engagement good and useful and energetic for them. So when you kind of look at your experience and look at your you know wealth of knowledge of how to work interpersonally with crowds, what are some of the things that you do when you hit that 20, 15, 10% in your own level, and you're like, I need to give it all, but I don't have to just do it by myself? How do you start involving the crowd?
That sounds like two questions. One sounds, how do you bring energy when you don't have energy? And how do you get the energy from a crowd? Did I get that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So I think what's really important to realize is we're taught a certain level, at least in the States, about working really, really hard. And I'm going to share this because I actually shared it with Jeffrey a little bit, but I saw myself as like a Californian Ferrari being told to like go the distance, but I never took the time to figure out how I ended up where I ended up. And that means by the end goal, your body, the engine is leaking, it's broken, you've gone as fast as you can go, and you think that's the whole point, to get to the goal, but your body is broken, your mind is tired, you haven't slept, you haven't eaten properly, and you just think of a broken car with like one of the wheels missing, oil leaking, the hood is barely there, and the driver is just shaking in the car. Nobody wants to arrive to work like this. Nobody should go through life like this. So personal health care, mental care, spirit care, body care is super important. No matter how much energy I get from a crowd, if I'm not at peak performance, that becomes one of the highest priority. And as a facilitator, that becomes one of your biggest priority. So even though you care about a client, even though you care about an aim, it is never at the cost of your health. Because when yours dwindles down first, your mind shuts down, the quality of anything just drops immediately. So personally for me as a facilitator, but personally for my job, I noticed that I have to be active at least 3 to 5 times a week. Physically, people look at you as a facilitator. You need to look good, which by the way, I do. You have to. Everyone looks at you, so you're more even motivated to look good, to go to the gym. But this is not just vanity. It actually, that confidence gives you energy. But also, we're talking about fuel. If we continue with the metaphor, right? You got to eat right, sleep well, all these other things. But what personally makes me inspired, what gets me motivated as a facilitator, is I get to know the people on the project. I get to know their passions. I'm fueled by their objectives. If I get a project but nobody is motivated, everyone's dead about it, you're carrying a dead team. If resources are not there, you're carrying half a dead team. People can tell you there will be 10 people, but in actuality, it's 10% of every person. Knowing this means as a facilitator, you need the energy to wrangle the resources you need, and that's important. So to get myself on a very hype state before I go on an event, let's go kind of backwards from an event. About a day or 5 hours before the event, you're going to hear me screaming. It's like cathartic screaming. I get super excited and I'm like so agitated and I have so much energy bubbling out of me and I'm stressed and anxious out of my mind, but I'm screaming it out. Yeah, like I'm hyping myself and tricking my body into thinking that I love this. Of course I love it. Yes, let's go. Right? I can't tone down the energy that I have. I need to like bring up the room. And it's like all these people, y'all gonna love me. You don't? I don't care. Let's go. Your Danish doesn't matter. You eat licorice. I don't like it. Doesn't matter. I'm gonna figure out a way. And hyping yourself up first, I think, as a facilitator is super important because in a way, it's like you believe yourself in the game. You see yourself as also a crowd coach. All right, this is new. These are all new people, different dynamics, different demographics, right? Different depression zones. How do we work with this? How do we crack people open? And by having the energy and the focus and also what you eat as a facilitator, I think is really important. No burgers, no fried food. It is a clean diet before you go in because just like before any battle, you want a light stomach. Before any strenuous exercise, I made the mistake. I ate a cheeseburger. Never gonna do it again. Ever. Your energy needs to be super sharp and focused. And if your tummy is busy dealing with a big meal, then half of your energy is depleted trying to deal with that big meal. You need all that energy and focus in your eyes, in your ears, in your intuition. So you need to conserve the energy and make sure that by the time you start, you've been inspired, you've done your screaming, right? You look good, you make sure. So that's why I wear the same outfit every single time. What became a coincidence became a ritual, actually Rina's ritual. You guys can trademark that if you want, okay? Royalties. What's most important is you get the ritual to basically go into battle ready mode. I am ready for anything. It is not a war. It is an internal war. And what you do is you get all the necessary pieces. Okay, I'm ready. I'm doing this. I'm about to face the crowd. I've hyped myself up. I realize whether I have people with me or not, the resources doesn't gonna matter. Because when you're in that zone, you know you're gonna give your entire best, even at your lowest. Because that's maximum effort, maximum output. And to answer the second question, because I probably should make sure that it's not as long as the first one, how do you get energy from the crowd? And lucky enough, maybe I don't believe introverts and extroverts are actually that different. I think their responses to stressors when we were growing up. So some people learn to get energy just by staying still and being by themselves. Lucky for me, my childhood resulted in me learning how to get energy from people and realizing it's a fun place and then how to multiply it. So when I get crowd engagement, I get hyped up even more. And that's why a dead crowd does not feed me, does not fuel me, doesn't make me fabulous. I am a fun, fabulous, fierce facilitator. Also trademark that. And you can't have that if you don't have the fire burning. So you need to keep the fire burning. And sometimes the crowd, if you're in a crowd and you're making the crowd work, most important is, do you know anyone there? If you don't know anyone there, I think you're facilitating the wrong place. Because by the time you facilitate, you should have already built relationships with people who, when you have eye contact with Jeffrey or Charles, you know, we've already talked. In case any time I'm in the moment of doubt, depleting energy that goes doot, 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 I look at you and I get a smile. I get a, you're doing great. You can do this, right? Sometimes you need a few people in the crowd who know you, who like you, who appreciate what you do. And not only that, they get in on it. lean into those people because those people keep that fire burning to keep that entire room warm. You don't want a cold room. And of course, facilitation adjusts for the topic. So if it is serious, right, I'm not going to go, yeah, let's burn everything up. No, 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 no. I might be cheering myself up, but I'll tone it to the room. And that still requires a lot of energy. That still requires no food in the stomach almost. You want to keep it clean so you can stay focused, so you can listen to the room. And that's actually something that time and time again I see where someone says, I don't know how you do what you do. And I said, can you not hear the room? Can you not listen to the room? What is wrong with you? How can you not hear them screaming for entertainment, for care, for attention? It is so obvious. And then I realized, it's not so obvious.
There's a lot of interesting things that you covered. I kind of want to go back to one because it's a particularly close area to an intersection that Jeff and I both have, which is creating relationships with your audience. In fact, funnily enough, Casually Pro would not exist without that topic in specific because that's the first thing that Jeff and I ever worked on is an article on how to get, uh, build a relationship with your audience. And when you're looking at something that complex interpersonally, right? Because I guess there's no easy way to kind of develop those relationships um, in a cold moment, right? That is to say, you walk into a room, you don't know anyone, and you're like, all right, we're gonna leave this as best friends. Um, there are, I guess, some concepts that are really unique to people who speak for a living, in such that I think being hyper observant is one of the key tools that we all have as speakers because if you can't tell if someone's yawning in the middle of your speech about the big fiery subject, um, you're probably not going to be invited for the next round of speaking engagements. So, how have the things that aren't about your job in specific or your career in specific helped you develop that type of hyper focus, hyper awareness of people around you? I want to know what are the things that you do to keep yourself in fighting form, so to say, that isn't your direct work and career.
How do I keep myself in fighting form when it's not related to my job, you mean? Right. And this is also in relation to the relationships you started with, right? Like,
So it's more about the skills that are relating to the observance, right? I think, just to give you an example, uh, I explore my city. I love going around and just finding the weirdest parts that I can imagine or maybe not imagine, and try to have a conversation with a stranger that might not want to talk to me. Right? We can think of like a
ah,
crotchety old store owner that might look like super involved in his newspaper, and then I try to say, "Oh, this is really nice. How long have you been around here?" So on and so forth. Because my background, my I guess my focus is in networking and strategy. And so when I'm not doing those things for work, I'm also keeping my skills up by entrenching myself into these small hobbies or these small interests that sharpen the blade, so to speak. So
okay.
yeah,
I think I get your question. So, like, how do you sharpen your skills when you're not at work?
bingo.
Look at that facilitator question. So, how do I sharpen the skills that I have that is related to public speaking or facilitation outside of the actual job? I also talk to random strangers. I also trap Danes in the elevator. I practice with them even though they want to scream and they want to leave. And I'm like, you can't leave. My idea is the universe surprises me, and all I have to do is ask. And I think more people than often not, they will respond to fun very positively. And I actually got that from my guardian, who raised me when I was 10 to 17. He was very charming. He charmed men and women and has a wife he loves and adores, but he had an ability to crack open any room. And then, taken and inspired by this, I would go and crack any situation I saw that would be entertaining, interesting. And before, I used to do it so that other people would enjoy it, laugh, and bond. And now I do it actually for me. I do it for, oh, this seems interesting. How can I open it up? How can I talk about it? I like this person's coat. I like this person's eyes. I flirted with a chef once because I just remembered the food was so good, right? I don't really have this, you and me are so different that I can't reach you. But I had this curiosity, kind of this, I am a fan of people. I am a fan of what you do, and why you do it. I don't know it, but I believe you're the best person to tell me. And I believe I'm the best person to ask. And maybe a tiny goal of the day that I do is I try to collect 18 hugs a day. Or else, yeah, I know, shocking. It's such a low number. But I collect 18 hugs a day, and I told my colleagues this when I went into the co-working space, and they looked at me strangely, but you know what? I built a culture of people hugging each other. I get inspired by catching smiles, looking for four-leaf clovers. Weirdly enough, if you're interested in a lot of things, you can facilitate a lot of things. And one thing is to basically, if you want to be good at conversations, you got to be good at listening. If you're good at listening, you got to be good at opening the conversations with other people, right? And so, how many different ways can I talk to people? And how many different ways, what am I interested in? And I will follow this. And that has led me to so many different industries. But also part-time, I also sometimes work as a waiter to work as my Danish skills. And the funny thing is, trying to be sharp in another language, and now jeg taler dansk, that is Danish, saying I speak Danish, I can easily go back and forth, but to be honest, connecting with the country, connecting with the language, connecting with the people has been something that has taken 10 years to master. And now going frem og tilbage, going back and forth, tale lidt dansk, speaking a little bit of Danish, trying to introduce myself to other people, prøve at introducere myself to other people is coming so naturally that it almost seems like you will see more chances. I see more chances of people connecting because now I have the ability to speak that language. So I love languages. And another thing, which is a side thing that helps me as a public speaker and a conversationalist and everything enthusiast, dancing. When you are comfortable with your body, and I didn't realize this too, but I did ballroom back in 2018, 2019 and competed. I tried swimming 1 year, I tried badminton 1 year, I tried a little bit of everything 1 year, American football 1 year, cross country you get the point. I was a trier. I did judo as well. And I noticed there's a lot of overlap, but there's a lot of interest, and a lot of the things that I had to do was body related. But dancing was one of the things that it gives you such a confidence in your presence, in your body, standing up, that I have been told what amazing posture I had. I didn't realize I had taken it from 2 years of ballroom and a bit of social dancing that I do, that my presence as I stand, it's powerful, it's graceful, it's almost doing tango in your face without me realizing that it is a show, it is a performance. And you, not only when you dance, but you connect with another person without saying anything at all. So practicing kind of the eye contact, the little smiles, the little gestures, I think more people want to be invited into something that they're going to have fun with. And then I practice this actually through dancing, through actually waitering sometimes at different locations just to stay sharp on dealing with new people in Danish. And how to break the ice with people, I set up different experiments. So I did an experience where 100 dates, and what does that say about your social skills? I did that. And I'll do experiments basically by curiosity. And then I realize I have not only the skills for the conversations, I have the content for the conversations. For you to be a maximum conversationalist, it's not because you're an expert in one field. You know enough to engage, you know how to ask questions, and also in very different contexts. So the ability to run, rock climb, you become an overall interesting person. And I said, I know so many fabulous people doing fabulous things in fabulous places. I know I'm one of them. You might be one of them. So I have this thing of tapping into that fun, tapping into the fabulousness of what you're doing, and enjoying it, sometimes on a daily basis. Just what can I do today to cause a little bit of chaos?
Wow. So this is how you keep and entertain the flame. Yeah, because we don't talk about it
That was
much,
beautiful.
but
I'm sorry, Jeffrey, that was beautiful. Keep and entertain the flame. I'm going to say it one more time because Jeffrey, I'm quoting Jeffrey, people.
wow.
I am going to quote, and I'm going to steal that quote. I will reference you, of course. Could you say the quote again, Jeffrey?
Oh la 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 la.
Ooh la la.
To keep and entertain the flame.
Hi, I'm Rina, the facilitator, to keep and entertain the flame that is your audience.
There is not only public speaking if you want to be a good a good public speaker. There are so many ways to keep this dynamic in your life, this energy. In my case, yeah, every once in a while, I need to do some crazy things that I'm very scared to do because I want to keep the confidence going and the momentum going. There's a lot of momentum in confidence. So I like all those little daily things that you said, like hugging people or talking to people in the elevator or doing whatever other things that can cross your mind. It's something that I used to. I jump also on the what you said before when you said that when you are in very high pressure before an event and you start to build the energy and you convince yourself that you
And I
that you
love
love
it.
it, but I'm not really sure if it's true or not. Because I know this feeling, you know. I'm like, come on, Jeff, I live for this. Yes, but maybe I love it, maybe I hate it. I'm not even sure, and I will probably never know. And it's better to stay in this. You are in equilibrium between the two, and you're never really sure. But that's how you keep going.
Yes, agreed.
There is something I would like to talk with you and share with the audience today. We here with you, Rina, where you are today. Extremely confident, very impressive. You create amazing events, but there is a long way to get there. And what I like to remind people is that it doesn't matter where you are today to define your future. A decade is a very long time. You can change completely in a decade. You can change your personality, you can change your life. I think it was 12 years ago that you migrated in Copenhagen, and you told me that it wasn't as easy as a pie. Not sure if that's a saying or not,
No.
but
Yeah, it's not easy as
can,
pie.
can you tell us a bit about this process and maybe some challenges and ways that you overcome those challenges?
Yeah, so a bit of summary that I can say is that in the last 12 years I've been in Denmark, I've been almost kicked out 6 times. I've ended up in the hospital 14 times, and in the first 3 years, I had 36 different jobs. I came with 2,000 kroners in my pocket. That's about 400 US dollars. Tuition is 250,000 Danish kroners. That's 250,000 Danish kroners, but that's about 40,000 US dollars. Rougher, give or take, maybe. Maybe the math is not mathing. That's why I'm a facilitator. But, you know, right away, we don't have that money. And I came here alone. So I had to raise that money. I did crowdfunding. I collected bottles. I was envious of my Danish and international classmates, but mainly my Danish international classmates, because they got paid to study. It's free education for them, and they get paid so they can pay their rent, and they go out and they drink beer. And I collect those beer bottles just to pay tuition. I remember one time I had even had to several times dumpster dive and collect these foods, because I was like, I can't live here. I can't seem to find 50,000 to pay tuition while trying to live. So I had to get creative. And the first memory I had when I found out that money wasn't going to come from the States from any source was, I need to do something. So I stood on a crate, and a lot of people thought I was a tutor, I was a coach of the students. That means someone higher year. And I said, no, I just arrived today, but let's all do something, because I realized that immediately if I knew people, I can give them something, and then I can get something, which is information on where I needed to find funding, my situation, housing, all of this. And things were super unstable, because sometimes the politics were not very internationally friendly, and they took away the green card, they changed the rules on us, and you're not allowed to work more than 10 hours a week. Can you imagine how can one survive? And I did everything that I could think of to stay here. And you're not allowed to get the help afterwards because it affects your visa. With this situation in mind, I had more experiences trying to deal with stress rather than being a student. And I was a student of stress, not a student of education. And then at some point I was, so active, so believing that I can change the situation. So I crowdfunded, I got people to sponsor me, I got scholarships, and then I got taxed on those scholarships. So then I said, what's happening, Denmark? Because the taxes are 48%. Everything you earned, it was cut in half and a little bit more. No incentivization. It was rough. It was tough, and also it's a very reserved society. They practice something called the Yonta law, where don't think you're better than me, don't think you're different than me, don't think that you know more than I do, don't think you're more special. This creates an entire society built on equalness, but also that there's no importance to you, or there's nothing special about either of you. But when you're an international, you're already born special. When you're an expat, you chose to be special. You have experiences that other people will not have, and that's why expats go through way more things, including if it's a different language, if it's not even in the same world, you go through a lot. And you also do that in terms of studying, and then work, and then finding love, and then breaking off that love, and all of these other chapters that in your hometown, you will only grow so much. But as an expat, I just want you to think of your midlife crisis as coming almost every single other year. And if that doesn't born and test a fighter or a person who's going to make it, I don't know what is, but it took a while to get the strength to understand the skills that you have, the strengths that you have, the weaknesses you have, and not to be bound by them anymore. So eventually, while being in Denmark, I realized, there's a lot of things that I told myself that I don't know if it's actually true. And I don't know if Denmark thinking is true. So I started discovering what is true for Rina, what is true to keep me thriving, living, and what makes me happy. And at the same time, your happiness changes when all of your needs are met, because now you're not chasing after the basic needs anymore. In some way, I noticed that I gained so much wisdom that was never meant for me. And that turned into a part-time job, I guess, to reaching out to international students here in Denmark and just injecting them with a bit of motivation because Mama Rina has done it, right? I've been through everything that you could think of. And I'm going to tell you, it sucks. Don't listen to these liars. Don't listen to the people who say, oh, it's great. No. It's going to be tough. You're going to end up being tougher. That's what's going to happen to you. You're going to be fine. You're going to be in a honeymoon phase. But when you're here for the long run and you're from a warmer country and you don't operate the same and you don't understand the culture and you're trying to bring everything you are into a new place, get ready to be tested. And in that way, I realized my attempts at trying to understand the culture and understand the people and only targeted Danes the first 3 years. If you were an international, you were not interesting to me. I was like, I have time to get to know you, but I do not have enough time to get to know the Danes because they run away. They're so reserved that during Corona, instead of 1 meter, they were already naturally at 1 meter, so they went 2. And that still wasn't enough distance for them. It is the way it is. And then when you navigate kind of this culture and you have your own culture, you end up forming a new culture. And the ones who understand that are other internationals because they know what it takes to be in a position where you can say you actually not made it, but you made yourself. And I think that's the thing when any person finds out what they're made of, the gravitas, the charisma, the uniqueness, nerve, and talent, quoting RuPaul, that's what you get. And that's why when I'm standing in a room and, you know, there's hecklers or there's challenges on the way, I say, you can't do anything to me that I have not experienced in Denmark. You cannot. I know more about myself than you know about yourself. So let's get this straight. When you know yourself the best, you know where you're going in life. And even if you don't know where you're going, you trust yourself the most. Right now, I'm a facilitator. I can change my mind, but I trust myself on that journey, despite it being almost unknown. It is not a straightforward built journey at all. And it only took several years before I was able to realize every single opportunity that I had was like a star. And only when I was far away from it enough, I would be able to tell people what I am and look at it like, this is my constellation. But the further I had, I was like, it's not a constellation, it's an entire galaxy. Some people are like, we are one clear line, but there's no depth, there's no color, there's no range. And that's why maybe an advice to some people that I know, which maybe is an advice for younger me and people like me who's like, I'm thinking of pivoting. I say, woo, wait a minute. I think besides thinking of your career, cut your identity from your career, because at the end of the day, if that's what you identify as, that's not really knowing yourself, because that could just change at any moment. And I realized this, I am more than my job. I am more than a pathway. I am more than the few choices that I made that nobody needs to understand, but it gained me the skills to basically get here. And do I know myself well enough that I know what I'm made of? Yes. And that's why when I approach you, it says, I know what I'm capable of, not because I followed A, B, C, D, E. That doesn't even spell a word. It doesn't. I am sometimes envious of those who somehow got into AI before us, went into software development before us. And I'm like, I definitely chose the wrong way. But I didn't realize that actually, you know what? Everyone's miserable in their jobs. Everybody is just like, you know, you listen enough is, And my job is tough because you can go from ramen to caviar in a moment, and caviar to ramen also in a moment. But knowing again what you're made of, and this isn't just you know, some smoke. It's just that if you try to carve something and you're trying to stack something and you say that it's strong, but you've pounded it harder and harder again and know that it actually has that strength, you know, I think that a lot of people who want to be entrepreneurs, I would say, what is the bravest thing you've done today? Is there anything that is not safe for you? When was the last time you really tried to really break away from your commonality, the way of your safe zone? Oh, but you know, I don't have time. Excuses, fear, default path. I understand, because I was also afraid too. Because it takes a lot of cojones. It takes balls to walk and test something out and know that it most likely has a high failure. So one of the strongest tests is, can you take failure? Because that's actually what's going to happen whenever you go off the beaten path. Like, I'm talking about not just the forest, like you just decide to jump off a cliff and go into the ocean. That's what you decided to do. And when someone says, Rina, I want to do what you do, I say, you do? Okay, jump off the cliff. Did you do it? Did you? No, you didn't. That's not to be just a facilitator. That's one of the steps it took to be brave. But I can't do it like you. I can't stand in front of people. Okay, who do you stand in front of? Nobody. Start standing in front of a mirror. But I don't know how to talk. When was the last time you talked to my mother? And I say this, but I think one of the best things too is when you know what you're made of, you know how to crack yourself even faster. You know what holds you back. You know how to examine it. You look at it and you say, okay, I want to be here. I have no idea what that fully looks like. I know I'm here, but what is the first step it's going to take to actually break that boundary? So I thought I was a public speaker. I thought I could talk about anything. So I decided to do public speaking in different styles, newscaster, poetry. I was like, what can't I do? I want to hear a no. Oh, I heard one. I decided to do one of the most scariest things. I decided to do stand-up comedy once. Okay, so the last time I did something scary was to do stand-up comedy. I was wearing the red dress with a black bottom. You guys seen it, it looks fabulous, right? I had 7 minutes of speeches prepared. Everyone was in normal clothes. I was looking like a businesswoman. I was in the wrong place. And I wanted to go and run away. But unfortunately, I invited 4 people to support me. So those people trapped me in my own experiment. And I said, I only have 7 minutes of content. They left me on stage for 15 minutes. Everything that I knew, everything that I prepared for, a prepared speech. That's why a speaker is not a facilitator. Go home. You're not in the same zone. A comedic stand-up has my praises on a high level, because trying to get people to laugh versus a prepared speech, don't even compare. Y'all need to go home. So I think what I realized when I stood up on stage and they left me there for 15 minutes because they said I killed it. I didn't feel like I killed it. I was scared out of my mind. I was convincing myself that I loved it. I had to change it within seconds of getting on stage, ripping out everything that I knew and then relying on quick thinking while smiling and giving myself moments of, haha, this is partly natural, and leaning into it. But that's because I also know myself. I know my story. And I know my story because every single time it got tested, I was like, is that really who I am? And I would really invite people. I would say that if you think you're tough, if you think you're tough as in not tough to yourself, but if you think you're a good sailor and you've sailed the seas, go somewhere really far away, go somewhere where nobody knows you, where you don't speak the language, and I kid you not, start from the ground and then go up. Just start that. But most people don't start from the ground, from somewhere else new. They start somewhere comfortable, and it's very hard to leave comfort for courage. Oh, quote me. It's so hard to leave comfort for courage. I am trying to get comfort with courage. But I got strength. I got quick thinking. And I'm saying that comfort will come. But right now, I also notice how to take care of myself, which, Charles, I'm going to re-emphasize with you that taking care of the Californian Ferrari engine is no underestimation feat. I look and think, what can I do to take care of myself? Do one good thing every single day, whether it's the mind, the body, the home, the spirit. Because honestly, you can get crushed, not just as an international, not just as a woman, not just as someone who's trying to make a business. You get crushed for just trying anything. And what I admire the most are the young children who are not afraid. Like, you can't be an astronaut. I could do it. I'm like, those are my people. They don't care. They believe it. They do everything related to it. And then they change their mind when they don't care about it anymore. How many do we think are in a position and not willing to leave it? That's even worse. Sometimes you can't leave comfort because it's even more scarier than trying to leave it. And I have more people asking me, I would like to leave. And I said, I know you won't. I know you won't, because if you did, you would have tried. And you're not there yet, and that's okay. Some people are forced, like kicked out like a baby bird. I had to come up with ways to stay here. But right now, some of my financial friends, they're doing really good. They got a house, they got kids, but they're also miserable in their jobs. And they hear my story of how hard it is to hustle, how hard it is to grind, but there's also fun stories. There's also freedom in management. You know there's no one else to report to, so you end up becoming like a little engine yourself. You create an entire system to help you succeed within yourself. And you try to do that when you interact with the world. I feel like it's like tinkering with what you're capable of. Whereas people are busy building other things and they're like, this is my function. I'm like, I can change my function at any time. And that itself is scary, because if I know what I want to build and I've had the skills, then I know what to do. But some people don't even know what they want to do. They've just accepted something. And I don't know, because I don't know what it's like, because I haven't had that. I haven't had the stable corporate job where the colleagues are there and they know you and you've been with them for 5 years. My projects are 6 months, 7 months, 1 day, 4 days online. It's a trade-off. And I know I just kind of went into like an entire story rant on toughness, but it's just to say that you are a tough person and know that what you're made of, and know that inside you've chosen what is in there and you've accepted all the parts of you that got here, is part of the expat journey of self-acceptance. Like, I love it so much. And it's hard to go to a point where you say you regret it, because how would you know should you not have tried? And that's actually why I admire you two. You starting a podcast, you've been chasing me down. I was like, gotta give this guy his slow clap. And for a long time, it will be one audience member, which is yourself, clapping for you when no one else is there. I'm quoting Alex Hormozy. It's the lonely chapter where you are grinding and no one is there and no one is seeing. And someday, maybe when I'm corporate facilitating and someone sees a clip of this and I said, yeah, these two guys started it out. We don't know whether they're going to continue to be podcasters. We don't know whether they're going to change their minds. We don't know whether they're going to take this skill and use it somewhere else. But you are trying, and that deserves not only admiration, but that shows also what you're made of. Jeffrey, you didn't quit, and I watched as your approach to me changed, refined, got better, and I knew it was time to respond, because I couldn't escape you.
Whoa. Or
I
you couldn't
couldn't.
have.
I would.
I would have run after
I
you
would
for
never try to run away from
all
the
around the
heat.
world.
He trapped you in the elevator.
Yeah, I was like, there's no button on the elevator.
That's
You're
creepy.
trapped. But I mean, that's the thing. Like you didn't give up, and you kept doing the same thing. And I had a moment. Let me be honest. I had a moment. I had a doubt. I was like, is this really what he's doing? You know? And you're like, yeah, I'm doing this. I was like, but why? Like, what's the connection? Like, what's going on? It's not really connected to what you did or done. And I saw myself being, a little bit judgy. Damn, excuse me, bleep that out. Darn it. I realized I was a bit judgy because I thought, I thought you were already happy in your job. But here you are pursuing a creative outlet, something you find interesting, and here you are tinkering with something you're interested in. Who am I to judge that this is not something that you guys want to pursue and get better at and apply it later in whatever projects you do? Just because you're a podcaster now or some software developer before doesn't change. You might be a future podcaster on software development in AI. I don't know. And then maybe open a bakery. We don't know.
Listen, if that's the case, I demand free bread, Jeff.
Free bread.
Oh, even des croissants. Des
No,
croissants.
cake. Let them eat cake. Give me cake. If I go and visit you, I want cake.
You know what's so weird though? Because in this little slice of conversation that we've had, and it's really funny too, because I brought this up to Jeff off camera. Um, I feel like every 10 years I live a new life, an entirely different existence of myself. And I'm thinking back to what you said about toughness and surviving. And I can, with almost 100% certainty, say that 21-year-old Charlie would never survive 31-year-old Charlie's life.
That's
But
right.
but with that, it sounds like, oh man, okay, so things got harder for you and it's awful. It's like, no, my life got awesome. It is unique and strange and weird, but I have senses of comfort that I didn't have before because I explored in areas that I didn't know were missing, right? I, you know, I grew up with cats. In fact, I'm in my childhood home right now, and 113 cats, I think, have come through this house because they fostered, or my parents fostered. But when I married my wife, she grew up with dogs. I was always terrified of dogs. I hated dogs because they would always bite me and go after me. And so when my wife and I moved in together, we compromised by getting a dog. And I love that little thing like crazy. There's no better joy in life than coming home and having my dog run up to me and start crying and squeaking and pawing at me. And I would have never known that was something that I would love, that I would appreciate, and I would deeply connect with at the level that I did unless I kind of bit my tongue and said, okay, yeah, let's get a dog. Right? And that's just to say that that's one area of my personal life that changed. But for all of us, we have a really beautiful thing that is uniquely human, which is the capacity to change. Right? I don't think anyone can make the argument that you have to be the same person from the day you were born to the day you die. In fact, it's almost impossible. Um, Jeff and I started this podcast because we truly believe that people should have an ability to explore other careers, other ways of living, other people in a way that gives them something. And because of that, we always land on a question towards the end of our show to all of our guests. And that is, you've lived an incredibly accomplished life and you're doing really cool and interesting things, but you had to build something up to get there, right? You had to develop something inside of yourself that wasn't there a decade ago. And so, in your kind of career, in your professional existence, what's one skill that someone can start building today that can help them get to where you are or even to somewhere that they want to be later down the line uh, and develop themselves in that skill? What's one skill that led to your success?
Hmm. One skill that led to success. There's too many skills that lead to success, so you're putting me in a tough spot, but that's okay. A facilitator will handle it. Um, Maybe skill is something that I think can be developed, but you need to have something in order to get better. So I think more not the skill, but more what do you need to have? What do you need to earn your way to? So to answer your question, Charles, the answer was bravery. To be honest, if you don't have this in you and you have no way to cultivate it, you don't have the cultivation for anything else. And it won't change and it won't be different. Bravery is that feeling and that intuition that I'm going to try, I'm going to do something. I might not know what it is. I'm a bit apprehensive, anxious, or fearful. There's not a good feeling that's on the other side, but I trust that I'm going to do it anyway, hoping that it would have a good outcome. That bravery or that intuition is so much more inclined right now that I was brave to speak up. I was brave to negotiate. I was brave to say, unfortunately, currently, right now, we do not accept pro bono work. You may go and see other people, but right now we don't accept that. Bravery at the earliest stages, over and over again, to speak up, to try something new, to say, I don't know this, but I can. That willingness is going to set the difference between those who make it and those who don't. If you cultivate that bravery all the time, and even then, level 2, calculated bravery, right? You know a lot of the stars are going to align on this one. The deal's hot, the people know you, you got your foot in the door. You can take a little bit more risk. You can get things a little bit more in your favor. And when you trust that intuition rather than saying, I'm okay with the way I'm at right now, and that's different. That's not lack of self-acceptance. That's realizing I accept myself. I understand where I'm at and I want to change so how can you need bravery? You definitely need it because you need to feel that something is off and then you need to be afraid a little bit to do it. Because if it's easy, then you wouldn't be struggling. So I would be like, how would you cultivate bravery? How would you understand that it is a time for you to be brave? And I noticed that 4 situations would test whether you were brave or not. It was the moment you had financial hell, you have no choice but to act. 2, a physical trauma of health that says, I cannot be the way before. Threatened to change, or the conditions won't be met in your favor. Or a loss so big. So basically, threatened loss is 1. A loss so big that you know it would affect you so bad. And the last one, which is very less often because its impact is not always felt, a positive inspiration that motivates you. Because for some reason, something that hurts motivates you in the initial phases. But what keeps you going is that small one that you need to find every single day. So I hope that answers your question. So succinctly, the single skill is tapping into that bravery and knowing to listen to that intuition and then to take that leap, to take it again and again and increase the jump often So even when you fall flat, you know it's part of the process. And imagine everything that you do is brave and that it's part of the process.
Ah, yes, yes, that's it, Rina. Yes, 100% with you on this one. 100%. That's the story of my past 8 to 10 years. It's this. You put it into words. It's funny because I didn't even see it in this way, but makes a lot of sense. I would add another way to reach this moment of clarity. The, seeing yourself as you really are. I'd say if you're not someone who's brave, and then suddenly you see yourself and you realize that everything is blocked, not because the world conspired to block you, but because you put the walls, and it's very thin walls. It's very stupid walls that you could break with a finger if you just try to, but that's it. Once you have this realization and the willingness, then it goes. And I like the way you say to entertain and to get more brave time after time. I would add that when you start out, you will not feel brave right away. Most likely, you will do little things and you will start to feel good about it because you knew that you were out of yourself. But it might take a long time before you start to rewrite the image that you have of yourself, and that you start seeing yourself in the moment as someone who is brave. But completely with you, because it opens all the door. I think it's kind of the universal key that opens all the doors, or at least that makes you break doors that won't open with the key.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, if you add to bravery is to know yourself and be able to see yourself for who you are and the state in which you are. The thing is that when you're currently in a job, you see yourself as a current state in that lens. So most people, when they lose their jobs, they don't see themselves, and they quickly want to find another job, because eventually you're going to have to ask those tough questions of who are you? And what do you do? If you don't do what you do, you need to be brave enough to go and test those questions. And something that does happen later is that eventually, when you get used to being brave into small moments that I might get this a few times, I might get this a few tries, the bigger jumps, it might take some time before you get the same results within the same time. But when you take bigger leaps, right, those require knowing more of yourself. And even then, like, believing if it doesn't happen, trusting the process and moving on. That quick kind of bravery and saying, I'm going to try no matter what the outcome is, I'm still going to try. And sometimes most people stay afraid. And I know what it's like to be afraid. It took me so many years before I could start publishing on LinkedIn, doing videos, answering people, and accepting the title Rina the facilitator. And now everyone is calling themselves a facilitator. And I said, guys, get your own name. But the people, they follow the facilitator.
Yeah, of course.
Of course they do. And you know what? Not to have it on a bad note, because when we talk about bravery, it's like, of course I'm brave. And I said, of course you guys are brave, but you're not taking the bravery where it counts, where you are going to know yourself. So I invite you basically to say, when was the last time you did something brave that would scare you, but tiny you would be so happy you did it, and older you knew you could do it? I became the very person that I would love to meet someday. And I think we all are trying to do that without realizing it. That person that we are, can you really say, I would have loved to meet this person? I'm so inspired by this person. I think this person is freaking brave. And you can admire people for their successes, meaning their outcomes, but a lot of people don't know the journey. So when I see someone successful, I said, how many tears did you cry? How many times did you want to give up? Let's measure that one. If it takes, these are 5 successes, and that what makes a successor. I think we need to talk about how many failures, how many tears, how many broken projects, how many imperfections, how many losses, and how many times you still chose to go up anyway. And I think that bravery count would be so much higher than the visible successes. I'm quoting Stephen Covey because I'm reading his book on 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That has taken me over years to reread, go back again, because I do agree with him that your public victories will be when you do your personal victories first. Your character, your behavior, your moral compass, your principles. And if they're standing on the wrong place and you're not even there, of course it's going to feel really hard navigating life. And thank goodness being an expat means that you get woken up a whole lot faster, and your eyes, whether you like it or not, opens up really wide. And I think being an expat is like, I'm gonna give you an image. This is the best image I can give you of what being an expat professional is like. And remember this, and then create an image here for me. Think of an art piece when you were from your original countries, and I don't know if you've traveled abroad, lived abroad, but this is what it's going to feel like. You have an art piece, you were young, everything was impressionable, you've stuck things on it, there's a bunch of glitter, it says happy, Californian, Asian, a lot of things are stuck onto it. And I said getting into the expat entrepreneurial experience, an enlightened expat entrepreneurial experience, is like taking this artwork, which you think is yourself, dunking it into cold water, fire, cold water, and fire, and by the end you have nothing. And then there's very few things that have stuck in place due to the tests and the trials of life, the peaks and the valleys and the highs and the lows. Wow, that was beautiful. I'm going to admire that for a moment. And then you have nothing left. And there's a moment of expat extreme depression. When you have that, that is actually a moment that is called, to me, the blank canvas moment. That is the tabula rasa, basically a clean slate that happens to you. And it shocks your entire nervous system because everything you know or see yourself to be is completely wiped. You're clean. You don't know who you are anymore because it doesn't fit. We don't know, is that who you are? And through the extreme expat experience, you then, to be conscious, choose something, and then you stick it and you say, that's what I like. And through time, you can test it again and again and see, is that really me? Is it really sticking there? Did I super glue that? Is it with like cement? Is it set in stone? Not all things are. And then to accept the fact that it might not ever be set in stone permanently. And then to accept that, but I can change. And that's not all who I am. That's me, who I am, to the extent that I know right now. And I'm brave to discover what else I could be and how much I can change. That probably is the biggest outcome from the entire expat journey, the entrepreneurial expat journey, the facilitator's journey. You can do it, right? Just be a little bit brave. And if you're lucky enough, someone's going to push you out of the nest faster than you wanted. You know, like I'll push you out of the nest.
Yes.
I got an entire rubric of pain. Let's go. Let's go. You want to go? You know that people want that guru that tells them what to do. I was like, let's go. We got a whole entire symphony of pain for you to go through. Let's go. And then the attitude and the mindset of that bravery, you're going to get it. If not, you're going to stay down.
Jump. Wow, that was inspiring. It was really amazing. Now, Rina, I would like to ask you a question that we ask all of our guests. And with all that you just told us, it would be hard for you to find a message that you can condensate in 2 minutes, but let's see how it goes. I heard that Rina, the facilitator, can do everything. It's a special 2 minutes because it's a message, a universal message to that you will, like a bottle that will be here for everyone who's on Earth today, but also everyone who will be born in later generations. It's a timeless message, your message, that you can now share with this magic microphone for 2 minutes. What do you want to share?
Hi, friend. Life is super tough, and it will only get tougher, but you will be the toughest. I invite you to be brave even when it's hard. I think you are more capable than what you know you to be. And I think you have the choice when you actually let go of fear and something that you really need. I think you have the ability to move through this life calm, collected, at peace, and choosing things that actually make you thrive. I invite you to that experience and know that everything that comes your way, everything, is actually an experience just for you. And no story is going to be like yours. So be brave. Jump out of the nest. Get kicked out of the nest. Be brave. Be brave, goddammit.
What an incredible message. I very rarely find myself in complete agreement with someone, but there is something so universal about growing and changing and being better than you were the day before, but it's never easy. And in fact, if it ever is easy, I don't think you're actually doing it. Part of being a really, really dedicated person to growth is accepting that you're going to be afraid a lot. But that doesn't mean you can or should stop. Um, with that in mind, Rena, thank you so much for taking this time to speak with us and sharing your incredible amount of wisdom and uh, being brave enough to deal with me and Jeff in a confined elevator that is this podcast. We deeply appreciate you coming on, and I think we got a lot out of it.
Pleasure to be here. And thank you so much, guys. Honestly, the honor is also mine, Jeffrey, Charles. Honestly, at the end of the day, the invitation was there and everything is for you. It really is. Also, this was for us. I hope you left as inspired as I was. Because I didn't know the things that I learned, which became wisdom, wasn't for me. And the things you learned that was your wisdom could have been meant for me. Right?
I'm gonna have to play that back a couple times.
Wait,
Thank
okay.
you.
Sorry. Last thing. Oopsie. See, look at the facilitator. It's just because here's a moment. So I have a theory. You can add it in, Jeffrey, if you want to. So I'll back up so you can like crop it. Okay. I learned that if life is all about learning and it's about this self journey of self acceptance and full self expression, and if your job is not to have a job, but your purpose is to find what brings you the most joy and bring that out into fruition, then you learn all the things that you need to learn in the time that you're supposed to learn when you learn it. And when you learn it, those lessons are not for you. Those lessons are the wisdom that you go and you basically have the lessons for others. So you learn something, you end up practicing it, you end up teaching it to others. So for example, if I learned that isolation, exclusion is a painful experience, I have learned through wisdom also that inclusion is so important. So I'll teach that to other people. And other people will learn the lesson of silence and that it's a problem to be silent when you need to speak up. And they encourage other people because they have learned time and time again, this is not good to stay silent when something is wrong. They gain the wisdom, they practice it all the time. They're basically teaching us a lesson that we need to learn too. So I think sometimes the lessons I've learned are not just meant for me, their wisdom to basically be shared. For all the people learning lessons, spread your wisdom. Give it here. Jeffrey and Charles will take it, and so will I. Make it rain with knowledge. Kick out the baby bird. Then bring knowledge. I'm sorry, baby bird. This was not a violent channel. It was just the metaphor. Right?
That's the hidden goal of the podcast. It's to extract the wisdom from the people we invite.
Ooh.
And apparently kicking baby birds out of the nest too.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, new goals. It's fantastic. We're learning and growing too. Again, Rina, thank you so much for this. This was incredible. If you made it this far, thank you so much for joining us. We do this a lot. We talk to really cool people and figure out how their cool lives can bring you some sort of wisdom, some sort of skill. Really, if we're being honest here, a little inspiration. Make sure to like, subscribe, send this to a friend. Get out of your comfort zone. Corner someone in a, I mean, hopefully not in a weird way, but in a, I want to talk to you and be your friend way. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.